Well, hello and welcome again to Whiskey and Cynicism. This is another episode of Desert Island Drams. I have with me today the wonderful Claire Tesh from Angus, Dundee Distillers. Claire, firstly, welcome along, and secondly, what are you drinking?
Hello, thanks for having me. I am drinking a Glencadam 17 years old, which for those that know me know that it's my current favourite dram out of the range. It's 12 years in bourbon and 5 years in ruby port. So it's like it's a little bit spicy, a bit fruity, but for me it's a banging dram. Have you tried it?
For those who maybe aren't from the Angus Dundee, that have two kind of malt distilleries in their portfolio. One is the Glencadam, which Claire is drinking. The other is Tomintoul, which I'm drinking actually an independent bottling of that I forgot I had. I don't always necessarily drink something relevant to the guests, but I forgot I had that. So this is an Oloroso refill butt, which is very delicious, quite nice and fruity, and lots of stone fruit and sweet spice. So there's two distilleries you got, and I guess Glencadam, especially for me, feels like it's got a cult status. It's one that it's a distillery I wasn't that familiar with, and then when I joined Royal Mile Whiskies, found that it's very much loved in that house, especially. That cult status. Do you kind of enjoy playing into that, or do you think Glencadam deserves to be more of a mainstream brand?
Yeah, it's a tough one because there's certain markets where I think Glencadam's definitely better known, i.e. maybe in the UK, but even it's such a, we call it a kind of traditional and small distillery. It's been around since 1825, but it is a small proportion of single malt that releases single malt, the rest go into blends. But it's still a kind of uphill struggle for both of our distilleries. Angus Dundee, we are primarily a bulk and blend company. And we do some single malts for Tomintoul and Glencadam, obviously, but there's not very much marketing at all that goes into them. I'd say that's changed in the last year. We've done a little bit of a push, but both of our distilleries are not very well known and they're quite underrated, I think. Glencadam especially, that was the reason that I joined the company over a year ago now, I think a year and 3 months or something. And part of my job is to raise the awareness for Glencadam and Tomintoul, and Glencadam especially, because there's just so many people that still haven't heard of it. So for me and my job, it's amazing. I get to introduce people to a new distillery and new bottlings that they've never tried before. So that makes my job really, really interesting. But I do play into the kind of cult status a little bit. I really enjoy when people like my brands. I know that you should do that anyway, but for me it honestly does give me joy when people say, oh, that's an amazing distillery or amazing bottling, and it's part of what gives me enjoyment working as a brand ambassador, I suppose.
I guess it's probably an unusual position to be in, because in this day and age, with obviously the level of information that is available to, especially kind of even the nerdiest of whiskey nerds, you're in probably a rare position to actually be able to introduce someone to a distillery they may not have tried before, which a lot of folk really don't have that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie, I do get pangs of jealousy sometimes looking at the brand ambassadors that represent big brands or brands that are very well known and have other cult reputations, but I kind of need to realize that this is going to be an uphill battle, but an easy one for me because I love the brand, so it's an easy win for me. But I do have pangs of jealousy sometimes where I'm like, oh, because it's not introducing new bottlings. When you go and speak to maybe a customer, it's starting from scratch every time, and maybe they have heard a bit or they have tasted one, and it's getting them to taste others, but it's that kind of starting from scratch every time. So when we release something new, most people will not have tried that, but they also won't have tried any of our other products. So it is that kind of starting from scratch for every customer, which I do enjoy, but it is not that I do more work than other ambassadors, that's not what I'm saying. But it's that kind of introducing new, and then when I meet them again, it's nice to kind of give them another dram, but it's that starting from scratch kind of every time I meet someone, which I do enjoy.
I guess you're missing that kind of inherent base level of trying to punt. I mean, just to pick a name out of the air, trying to punt Johnny Walker as a BA, then you're full well that someone's going to have heard of the name and probably tried a couple of the bottlings. And you are obviously you look after all of Europe in your job. Do you find that when you do tastings and stuff in various parts of Europe, do you think the perception of Scotch whisky and its kind of the way sometimes we almost over-revere it at home here and kind of put it on too much of a pedestal, do you find that kind of is a similar impact or a kind of attitude in the rest of Europe, or are they more open to having fun with whiskey than, say, in the home market?
I think it definitely varies from market to market. There are certain markets that, I mean, I'm quite lucky in that Glencadam has that kind of, is more geared towards your kind of experienced drinker. You know, it's a minimum of 46% ABV, non-chill filter, natural colour, whereas Tomintoul is more geared towards maybe entry level kind of. The style of whiskey produced there is more kind of easy drinking, bourbon matured, same as Glencadam, but with slightly lower ABV. So I have the best of both worlds in that when I go to a market, if it's, for example, Belgium. So Belgium, I think they quite like, or Germany. Germany loves the kind of higher ABV. So Glencadam is kind of a perfect fit for that market. Traditional, I mean, it just kind of varies. I think the UK are more open to drinking highballs, drinking whiskey cocktails. There are certain markets I go to. Italy's a good one. Italy are definitely more open to drinking whiskey cocktails and kind of experimenting. But there's some markets you go to and your feedback is no, don't do that at all. So it definitely varies. But I would say throughout every market that I go to, there is a love for whiskey in general, whether that's not just Scottish whiskey, but it's Irish whiskey, Japanese whiskey. It's definitely valued, and you see how many people enjoy it. Because when you go to a whiskey festival, most of those people want to learn, they want to know more about what you're drinking or brands. But it is amazing to look at the different kinds of people that want to enjoy whiskey and love whiskey around the world.
It is phenomenal, kind of how quickly you can bond with someone over whiskey as well. I'm sure people with other interests have it over, be it cars or sport or various other things. But you know, at a whiskey festival, you know, all you have to be doing is standing at the same table as someone and you're suddenly best mates because you both love Glencadam 15 or something. You know, it can be that simple. Oh, that's my thing as well.
Yeah. No, I know, it's amazing. I often think, what else is out there? As you said, like there must be other kind of clubs, but for me, because whiskey's my job, but it's also my passion. So I'm in too deep now. I don't think I can join any other hobby clubs.
Yeah.
But there are others out there, I've been told.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't actually talk about anything else anymore.
Whiskey, and whiskey, that's it.
Yeah, I guess, and that's something that we talk about a lot. As it's coming a feature for all these videos and whatnot, is that the bonds and that good side of whiskey that can bring people together so quickly. On the flip side of that, what's the thing that kind of annoys you most about the whiskey industry in general? What's that kind of bugbear that frustrates you?
Good question. People ask me this a lot, and I was thinking about my answer. To be honest, at the moment, because I've stopped traveling, I travel all the time, or used to, and now I've stopped. It's that idea of, you know, when you kind of maybe break up with someone and you only remember the good bits. That's exactly what's happening right now, because I was like, I'm sure there are things that bug me about the whiskey industry. But at the moment, I honestly can't tell you. Maybe one, and that's maybe it's more personal to me than anything else, is that I'll go to a tasting, or I'll meet someone and I'll say, oh, they'll ask me what I do, and I'll say, oh, I'm a whiskey ambassador, and they're like, do you actually like whiskey? And I'm like, yeah. Otherwise my job would be terrible. Yeah, I do. And I think I get that all the time. No matter who I speak to, they'll always ask me, do you like whiskey? And I'm like, yeah, no, I do. And then it's kind of, that's maybe my only little bugbear that I can think of. Everything else is just great. Wonderful.
It is phenomenal that people would, like, in some way assume that you would either want to do the job, or in fact that someone would pay you to do the job of traveling around the world talking about their whiskey when you didn't actually like it. You know, it's an amazing conclusion to jump to.
Yeah. What do you mean you're a whiskey ambassador?
Yeah, exactly.
That's maybe the one bugbear that I think I have. And as I said, only remember the good parts. The long hours of traveling, the airports, the many taxis, boats, and everything else that I've taken. Dreams, really. I miss them. I really do. It's weird. I never thought I'd miss traveling, but I do miss it a lot.
Yeah, I think we all are. And weirdly, when you said boats there, I was imagining some sort of weird sailboat situation. I assume you mean ferries, but...
So was I. And for some reason, I wanted to do this, but then I don't know why. I did it was a tasting in Sweden, and they do them where you go out on this, like, well, it is a kind of cruise ship, I suppose, and you have like a whiskey festival on the boat, so there's nowhere to go. It's so much fun. It sounds a bit I made it seem a bit seedy there. So.
Sounds terrifying.
Start of a horror film. No, I didn't mean that. It's really good because what happens is you do the festival and then you all go for dinner and then you'll have drinks afterwards. So you, as you said, like that bond that you maybe made with someone or they had really good chat with, you can go and have like drinks later on. Everyone kind of does everything together. So it's a good festival. I made it sound like a horror film. It's not.
Nice. I think next time once you're out having, once someone says to you, do you actually like whiskey? I think you should just pick up a bottle of Glencadam and just drink directly from the bottle while eyeballing them during the whole thing, just to assert dominance in the situation.
I was going to say hit them over the head. I was like, Simon, violence is not the answer.
No, make a point.
I like your way better. I went straight to the violence. My bad. What's wrong with me during lockdown?
Well, I mean, I think we might have just touched a little bit on that, but I mean, one of the other things I enjoy asking people in these situations is, of all the things you've done during whiskey, and obviously, as you say, you've traveled perhaps more than most, even in the whiskey industry. What's your favorite moment where you've been in a position that was quite simply, it was an amazing experience that was just simply due to whiskey?
Yeah, it's again, I had a really long think about this one too, and I actually don't think I have an answer for this. And that's not because I'm spoiled rotten with most amazing memories, but I have had some wonderful experiences because of whiskey, 100%. And there are a lot that kind of jump in like to mind, but to be honest, I'm just surprised, and it's nothing to do with the liquid. It's more, as you said, like the community that kind of whiskey has. And for me, I'm struck with, I mean, I've been a brand ambassador for coming up 2 years. Maybe it's 2 years in tomorrow or something. Happy anniversary to me. But I'm just struck by how kind of friendly and amazing the kind of community is. I mean, I'll do a tasting for, and now it's all online, we'll do online tastings, and people will send me, you know, if I've spoken about something that I like and they've kind of said a dram that they like, and they have a bottle of it and it's open and they're drinking it, they'll send me a sample for me to try. And it's just that kind of sharing community that I'm just always kind of shocked by with whiskey. And it's even more so now when everyone's kind of spending more time at home, people are just so willing to help and share and want you to have the same experience that they have or try the same drams as they have. So I can't say I've got an outstanding memory. I'm sure there will be one that kind of springs to mind, but for me, it's just that continuous sense of community that the whiskey industry provides.
I have to say the kind of the nicest bit about me asking these questions is that I don't have to answer them, because I think I'd be in the same boat trying to actually think. I
was gonna flip the question round on the last one about your bugbear and whiskey, but then I thought maybe actually you're meant to be interviewing me, not the way around.
and also I think that my iPad ran a battery before I finished that particular rant anyway. So let's leave that one.
5 minutes later, Simon, we really need to wrap this up now, all right?
Yeah. Claire's asleep at the table, and it's well, I mean, that's kind of all the questions that make, except of course the most important, which is if you were to head to what is now getting quite a busy desert island.
I still have heard. Bit crowded over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of decent dramming going on. So what would be the 3 whiskies you would take if you were to have 3 for the rest of your life on a desert island?
Okay, so I really struggled. I know I've said this for every single question you've asked me, but this question more than anything else, I really struggled with, because I am so indecisive. So trying to choose something to wear or to cook for dinner is difficult for me. Choosing only 3 drams, I got stuck a lot, but I managed to narrow it down to 3, and I would say these are my kind of current desert island drams. If you were to speak to me in a month, there would be 3 different ones. Not that I'm not loyal, but it'd be kind of one in, one out kind of situation. So the first one that I'd go with was the 24-year-old, the 2019 release that they did of Springbank, you know, the single cask, the blue label. So I tried that one, and we'd gone to a tasting, and I had our Hong Kong importer over, and I took her out for dinner, and we went to Ushkabe to have a dram, and she loves Springbank, so we had a dram of Springbank. And for me, I think I've chosen these 3 drams based on the kind of memories that I have associated with them. And so if I drink them again, I'll know I'll get that kind of same enjoyment that I had before. So that was the first one. Such a good dram. It was like really fruity and really spicy. I loved it. The second one, because it's a desert island, I get to choose whatever I want. I decided to go old. So I went for an independent bottling of Kalila that I had the pleasure of trying, which was bottled from about 1980 from my previous company. Got a little bit spoilt there. And I love Kalila. It's like one of my favorite distilleries. I really like young Kalila, and I really like old Kalila. So I kind of love the kind of rough and readiness you get from the younger style. But for me, this was a 37-year-old Kalila. I know. I was gonna go for drams that are a little bit more accessible, but then I was like, well, why? It's my desert island.
Absolutely.
So I loved that one, and it's kind of like almost like salted chocolate. And it was actually, for me, it was one of the first tastings that I ever did for my last company. And that was one of the final drams that we had. And so I'd kind of finished the tasting, and we're all sitting drinking this together. So that kind of brought back really good memories for me. So that's my second dram. None of these drams I can get again, so annoying. I don't have any more samples left of them, completely dry. Anyone out there has got any samples, send them my way. And the third one that I'd go for is, again, an independent bottling of Arran this time. So it was a 21-year-old Arran that I tried. And this was this time last year. I was kind of just about to move companies, and I was kind of really excited for my new challenge. And I remember drinking this in a bar and just absolutely loved it. It was a 21-year-old. It was about 56% ABV in a refill barrel, and it was just so stunning. And I've still got a little bit that I enjoy now and then, just to kind of go back and enjoy that kind of experience. So I've gone for 3 based on memories associated with. If we did this for another 2 hours, we could go through the 300 drams that I would take to the desert island, and I would go on and on and on. So this is my final choice, and I'm sticking with it. You better close it down before you
Claire parking that cruise ship full of whiskey up on the desert island.
Yeah, just one more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's funny. Some people have gone really accessible, and I mean, there's a couple of people who all 3 drams would have been under 100 quid for all 3 bottles, and other people have gone kind of weird and wacky. And I think that's the thing. It's your desert island, and you can take what you want, and whether that is an old independent bottling or simply a 12-year-old of your favorite. So, but nice to have a bit of nerdy also. But I thought you were about to tell a story of you and I drinking that Springbank, but I guess that you weren't there, because I tried it at the Balmoral after a Balvenie tasting, and I kind of thought it was with you.
I was there. That was the second time I tried it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I just go from bar to bar trying it different.
Yeah. I've not had that 24-year-old Springbank yet. Can I just get a wee taste of it?
Yeah. That was great. Was that after the Balvenie tasting that we did at the Balmoral? I
mean, I can remember if you were there or not, Claire. So.
I was there.
I think it was.
Obviously very memorable for you. I was there to serve something else.
I think it was after Kelsey McKechnie did that really, really amazing single cast sample tasting of Balvenie. I think it was that night.
Yeah, because I think Cameron was letting us try the Gordon MacPhail Tomintoul from 1968, I think was the other one.
That's right.
And then there was another weird and wonderful bottling that he just got in as well.
I've got a picture somewhere of 3 ridiculous drams on the bar there from after that night. I remember the Tomintoul. I can't remember what the third one was. But anyway, I am going to finish it, otherwise you and I are just going to keep chatting nonsense for the next hour and a half. But
we've already done that an hour before.
Exactly, yeah. We've actually done the Zoom call since this morning. But thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Lovely to catch up with you, and hopefully it's in person before too long. But great to catch up, and Slanjava.